Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Zach Celadonia.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and joining me over to my side, in one flash, Zach Celadonia. Zach, it's a new week. The draft is way behind us in the rearview mirror. How you feeling so far? How's your May treating you? How's Mother's Day treating you? How's everything going?
Hey there, Joe. Doing good. Thanks for asking. Yeah, great week behind us. Still got the post-draft high running through my body. Still amped up about the class. Good Mother's Day weekend. Mama Flash is in Italy for the weekend, so I was off the hook. Got lucky there. We're going to lunch when she gets back, and I'll get her something nice. But I had a
McDonald's.
very free Mother's Day.
Get her some McDonald's, man.
Yeah.
Why not? You know, I used to do that all the time after church every Sunday, my mom, and it would be 11 o'clock for mass. So no breakfast left over at McDonald's after church. I when I got a little older, I was able to convince her to get me some chicken nuggets. I think usually McDonald's was the cheap meal afterwards. But I always knew to order extra fries with my mom. It's a good Mother's Day story. So don't complain about the banter, folks. There'll be plenty of football coming. But you order extra fries because it's the typical, and I know this sounds terrible, but it's the female lady thing. Oh no, I don't want any like that. And the wife would do the same exact thing. You as a dude, you know it. The guys, drop in the comments, you know it. Ladies, you could argue however you'd like, but you know you're picking at your man's fries. And it's like I get a large fry because I'm a large man and I need every single bit of that food. So I learned that over the years. Even like I would just even start to order maybe when I was starting to foot the bill for the meals, an extra small fry. Why you get an extra small fry? Because I really like it. And then just reach across. And I find my daughter doing that stuff now too. So a little life lesson for you there, Zach. We do have some things and stuff to talk about with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Still got the general manager hunt going on. So now we're hearing Doug Whaley having a second interview with that. So that's eventually going to come around later in the week. We got the NFL schedule release. Some of that, I guess, is being trickled out. There, NFL being the big entertainment product it is, there's going to be stuff all over the place, I guess, starting Wednesday on through Thursday night when it's officially all revealed. 8 o'clock sharp, probably Steelers.com. NFL Network will make a big show of it too. But as I'm hearing it, some of the networks get to announce some of their games. Of course, the international game's already set. Steelers aren't a part of any of that. So in that aspect, and with most of the travel that they have, I do not believe that they're leaving the East Coast this year. And they have some of the fewer, if not the fewest, miles that they'll travel, which will help benefit all these young men who are going to be coming onto the field for the first time with their pro football careers. And this got me thinking. I was like, what can we talk about today? And, as is usual, I always see dumb takes on the internet and I see bad comments. And of course, a lot of those derive from Kenny Pickett, and Kenny Pickett's going to be the starter and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, you know what? We do this almost every year because sometimes you have to pull back. So today we're going to talk about some expectations, maybe realistic expectations for the Steelers rookies, not only maybe for 2022, but going forward. And what better way to start when you're talking pick 20 overall? Kenny Pickett. Did you see some of this, by the way, Zach, where they were talking about Seattle Seahawks, for example, said there wasn't a quarterback that was pro ready or that they had high enough to use for a premium pick in this draft. And that got me thinking, like, if the Steelers really felt this way about Pickett, this is even more of the best move, because next year, more than likely, you have like the Seahawks, you have the Eagles with Jalen Hurts, who could be on a hot seat. What if he has a terrible year? You're going to have a lot of teams vying. Might be a better quarterback class, but there's going to be a lot more teams looking for quarterbacks too. So maybe the right guy just fell in their lap. But all of the Steelers Nation out there, everyone, are they putting too much already on Kenny Pickett being the guy just because it's a first-round pick? We talk about how first-round picks can be boom or bust, but also as a rookie quarterbacks sometimes aren't so hot. So before I talked a lot about quarterback position on the last episode, in particular where I thought these guys would go. In my opinion, the expectation for Pickett should be you shouldn't even be seeing him start this year. But let's kick it over to you and hear a little more than just myself drone on about the topic.
Yeah, no worries, man. Always glad to hear you drone on in the morning because I do the same back to you. So no problem. We'll hit it back and forth like a tennis match. We're like the Williams sisters, Serena and Venus, but as podcasters.
No. It's the Nintendo Switch Sports, which just came out. So me and the kid are playing the tennis, and you've got the single Joy-Cons, and you're bouncing them back and forth, and you've got like the me characters and everything, the personalized characters, and
yeah,
that could be frustrating because I'm hitting it out of bounds too far. So I don't want to do that to you, but I'll lob you an easy one.
Thanks. Yeah. Don't serve me a smoking ace, please. I'm new at this. So yeah, that's a good point about the quarterback class next year. I did see Seattle come out and say they figured, I think their words were they thought that Drew Lock was better than any quarterback prospect in this class. And I'm as optimistic for Drew Lock's career as the next guy. He hasn't shown a whole lot as a starter, but he's got some moxie to him, and he throws a pretty ball at times. But I think that was a bit dramatic on their part to give their guy some props like that and an ego boost, because I really do think, it's tough now with the black and gold glasses on, but I do think Pickett that is better than Drew Lock. I know we haven't seen him play yet, but I like what he offers more than Drew Lock if we're going to break it down to just like their intangibles and their tools. So I did see Seattle say that, but they've been full of crap all offseason because they were also saying Russell Wilson wasn't going to get traded, and they keep saying DK Metcalf isn't going to get traded, but his name comes up in trade talks like every other week. So who knows what they're selling up in Seattle, but I'm not buying it. That's what I know. And next year, you got the Vikings too, that they didn't take a quarterback this year when people thought they might to prepare for life after Kirk Cousins. They didn't take a guy. The Colts are going to need a guy after Matt Ryan because he's getting up there in age, albeit I think he's a little better than the usual veteran stopgap, but they're going to be looking. So there are teams across the board next year, probably a little bit more than this year, that are going to need to look at quarterback. That I agree with. And the expectations that are being put on Pickett, that's just what happens when you're a first-round rookie quarterback. I really can't put any rhyme or reason to it, but they could have picked Desmond Ridder, Malik Willis, or even Sam Howell, which would have sucked. But if they would have picked any of those guys first round, there would have been the immediate pressure, the immediate expectation to start. Especially coming in after Big Ben. I mean, what shoes are bigger than Big Ben's to fill in Pittsburgh? So whether you or I or Kenny Pickett likes it or not, the pressure is going to be there regardless. I totally get the annoyance when you hear fans talking about wanting to see him right away and immediately. I get that. I don't think the Steelers and Mike Tomlin are the type of team that just hands over the keys to anybody. I don't expect Pickett to be given the job outright. I do think he'll win it. I think it's going to be rather close in camp. And if it is close, I think no point in waiting. Just turn it over to the kid. If he looks like there's a noticeable difference in camp, and you'll be there. I'll be there as much as I can, but I'm going to try to go and see live for myself to see the tempo and the pace of the offense as the three quarterbacks get filtered in. I say three, no disrespect to Chris Oladukin, but I'm not sure.
I thought you meant maybe Mason was left out of that conversation.
No, I'm including Mason for you and for like the other people who want to support him still. So I'm not going to exclude Mason. I think this dude, I'm kind of all over the place right now, but I think Pickett, when I break it down in percentages for the people, just to keep it easy, I think Pickett has about a 45% chance to start, maybe 50. And then the rest, you can split it between Mitch and Mason, how you see just. I think it's a three-man race. I think Tomlin's very honest about that. But I don't think it's going to be possible to keep Pickett on the sidelines if we get to training camp and we get to the practices and he's noticeably better than the other two. If it's close, I still feel that way. But if there's a drop-off and Pickett looks like a rookie and he's not ready, no rush. Let him chill. But that's the thing. It's very circumstantial when I phrase it like this and hypothetical. But that's because I'm not viewing it as like a typical Yinzer or a fan. I love the Steeler fans. I love the fans that watch our show. But there are certain groups of people that just want to see him thrust out there because he's the new shiny toy and the rookie. I want to see it just as much as anybody, but I'm saying he has to earn it. Only only asterisk attached to that is I think he will earn it. So I think there's pressure on him, but I think he'll do a good job of meeting expectations. And if he doesn't, you start Mitch or Mason, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and of course, I'm never discounting Mason. There was a meme that was out there over the weekend, and it took one of Mike Tomlin's quotes completely out of context, and somebody's like, "Hey, look, they didn't mention Mason as part of this," and it's like, no, the meme didn't mention it. If you had heard or listened to the interview, or you pay attention to these things, they most certainly they have not excluded, and there's a reason for that. And what we haven't heard a whole lot of is about Chris Oladokun, and we'll get to him because he's part of this conversation too. But my point with Mason and bringing his name up is like, I think of the like the Back to the Future meme, like, you kids aren't ready for this, and if you weren't ready for the third round pick and you hated him, just wait till you get a load of the first round pick. Like, this one might drive you crazier, because if Kenny Pickett doesn't succeed, they're going to be even more wild. There's going to be even more people paying attention. And he's probably going to have more of an opportunity, I would think, to fail than, say, Mason or even Mitch Trubisky at this point.
Oh yeah. If Kenny's on the field, I don't want that wishy-washy bullshit where they're like yanking him in and out. Like that's the thing. There are some people that think, oh, if they put Pickett in, like, well, they're not going to pull him out if he does bad. I'm like, good. I don't want that. I don't want it to be a Miami thing where they're putting Tua in, taking him out, putting Fitzpatrick in, putting him out. That's not good for his development. I'm saying if Pickett's in there and he struggles, you got to let him sink or swim, man. You can't yank him because of some struggles. There's a difference if he drops like 5 games in a row and looks just abysmal out there, then yeah, yank the kid. But if he gets to start and he drops a game or two, throws a pick here and there, that those are the trials and tribulations of being a rookie. I firmly believe that there's no reason to keep a quick hook on him. You know, if you give him the job as the first round pick, which you just hinted at yourself, you're exactly right. Don't quick hook him. You know, totally different than Mason or Mitch. I think they both will be given equal opportunity, and if they get the starting job, Mason or Mitch, they won't have quick hooks either, but they'll be quicker than Kenny's hook. If that makes sense.
Yeah, because they used the first round pick on Pickett. Why not? And that kind of goes back to Mason, even in 2019 with all of those injuries, they had Duck Hodges available. They still went back to Mason.
That is a good point. That's a great point. Yeah, they did.
And you made me forget the other part I was going to say about that. Oh, but Mitch Trubisky. Trubisky's the same exact way. You'd see what Matt Nagy did with him in Chicago, and they're pulling him for Nick Foles. And they're playing all those shenanigans. And then even last year with Justin Fields and Andy Dalton, of all people. It's like, just play Dalton. I understand there's injuries, and then there's an injury, and all of a sudden there's pressure. And of course, pressure as you're a head coach, and you're about to lose your job. So, you're going to want to put in the guy who might be able to save your credibility. There was no credibility there. That was just too much going back and forth with the quarterbacks. So my expectations are pretty low this year for whether Pickett starts week 1 or week 17. My expectations are pretty low. Now, of course, if he gets in week 17, he might have an opportunity against a team that's maybe sitting some starters, depending on how the Steelers pan out. And, assuming he's going in there for different reasons, he might be able to ball out, and he's going to look good. And that's going to cause even more the controversy. We know Mike Tomlin doesn't get into the noise. So I'm not too worried about that, but I'm not expecting Pickett to come out there. Like, there's going to be people that are say, well, if this guy can't beat out Mitch Trubisky or Mason Rudolph for the job this year, no. That's not my expectation. My expectation looking ahead is maybe 2023 starter. And that's going to still, if this was a bad quarterback class and all of these dudes need development, that still might take some time. Because if they let's say the Steelers don't, how do we want to say this, have to like stretch or really reach to make it into the playoffs like they did last year with Mitch or Mason, there's maybe no rush to play Kenny Pickett right away. Now, this is also the caveat of Mason Rudolph is only under contract this year, so he may not be part of that equation come 2023. So looking ahead, future starter has got to be the expectation for your first round pick.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I'm with you there. I could see a future. That's why it's so easy for me to talk about this, because I have the way I feel, but I'm very open to all these other possibilities. It doesn't have to be such a vein-popping comment puking argument to go back and forth with someone about whether they're right or wrong. Mitch and Mason are the veterans in camp. I'm sure Mason is viewed as the incumbent starter to some because he's got the most experience here. Mitch was brought in for a very specific reason, for a chance to start and a chance to lead a playoff-ready team like the Steelers. So there's a very plausible reality out there that Kenny doesn't win the job in camp, and he's not starting by week 4, like my original prediction during the post-first round podcast. I really think it is possible. So I'm not against that at all. I think if he does sit all year and comes in week 17 and balls out, then yeah, he's a shoo-in to start next year. That's the whole idea. But if the Steelers decide to start Mitch or Mason and they get off to a good start and they're competitive and they're in the hunt for the playoff, you're right. There really is no rush to get Pickett on the field in that particular circumstance. And if the Steelers are winning games that way and they're looking good and Kenny's development is going well, you won't hear any complaints from me. You won't hear any complaints from me. I just am partial to think that he wins the job earlier than that.
No, I try to be impartial. Look, the only horse in the race I have is that the Steelers are successful.
Me too.
And however way they get about to that, I'll be happy with. And I think that's what sometimes gets lost with folks that just want to be right about, Mason was the guy, or Mitch was the right move, or Pickett has small hands and he was never going to be any good, and this, that, and the other thing. And that's not the way I see it. And it's like I've tried to, the whole purpose we're talking about this is to kind of temper and bring down those expectations, because right now I think they're through the roof. Everybody, it's a Pitt guy. It's the same thing like James Conner. He's going to sell like a bazillion jerseys. Everybody's going to be wearing
it. There were kids wearing it when he got picked. Have you seen these videos of him getting picked and kids going crazy? There's kids in Steelers Pickett jerseys. Their parents got them that. What if we don't pick them? Unless they're using the cheap sites like I do. But if they spent $100+ on a custom Pickett jersey and we don't pick him, dude, I'm sorry, you're wearing that jersey all year if you're my kid.
What if he's not wearing 8?
Or that.
That would screw with me entirely. I wouldn't be able to do that. No, today, I was telling you this off air. I got the throwback Rod Woodson on, and I wore this to the draft party because I'd wear something different, because this isn't something I'm necessarily going to wear to a game. This was a gift, by the way. Very expensive jersey, and I might just do a show on jersey buying. I think me and you could really go to town on that. I don't always divulge the bootleg sites out there because I don't want them to get shut down. I still want my feeder system for some cheap jerseys, because it's a bit ridiculous. I've gotten to the point where maybe a few years use out of $150 jersey or more, depending on which one you buy. It's insane. It's insane. Now, Kenny, I think I wouldn't say it's a safe pick, but it's at least something that I think you could wear. The point was, at the draft party, there were people wearing them. I think the Steelers shop had a limited number, and they sold out of them because I didn't see any there.
They did. That is what happened. Yeah. There were people who got him early, with laying their nuts on the table, trying to predict us getting him. They were right. But after we picked him, the stores he's first-round quarterback. We're not used to seeing that here in Pittsburgh, but that's the standard across the league. If you're a first-round quarterback, your team site and your apparel, they start pumping you out real quick. Usually first-round picks in general, if you're picking as high as 10, but a first-round quarterback, his jersey was hot and ready to go as soon as he put the hat on, I'm sure.
Yeah, it depends on the position. If it was an offensive lineman, I don't think they're printing them up as quickly. So not to get into a whole jersey take there, but it was just seeing people, and I get it, he's the hometown guy. There's a lot of people that are Pitt fans and go vice versa. I think it's always funny to find the Penn State bars around too, because it's just it's a hop, skip, and a throw away from being in Ohio State country, or when I'm coming over. So anyways, get the Pickett thing. I think we've touched on enough.
Yeah.
We need to talk about pick-ins now, not to be confused. And we're still waiting on jersey number news. This drives Zach crazy because he has to he has to be informed. Number one, it's all about the swag. It's all about the swag. This is why we're talking about visors and helmets and things like that. But you know what? Dude's got to look good on the field, and you want him to wear number 1. And that's what we're thinking, and we might lean towards here. I don't know. What did he have in college? Do you know offhand? Yeah, he
One.
was. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
number one in
there he is.
college.
Yeah. Oh,
There
look
he
at the
is.
guns, dude. Look at those
I
veins
know.
popping in the biceps. Real nice.
What about they let you wear 0 in the NFL? That could be
No,
really
dude, no. The
interesting.
NFL's dragging their feet with like any kind of cool tweak they can make. They always drag their feet. They only recently allowed the whole single digits thing like a
Oh
couple
yeah.
years ago. You can wear 0 in college, but not in the NFL. And yeah, bro, from your lips to God's ears, I am hoping the Steelers can just I get it. They don't want to like be this flashy, like, oh, look at me kind of ran organization. But whether they like it or not, that's kind of been happening over time. You can't control guys' personalities forever. There is a Steeler way, and I'm all about it. I love the Steelers. Wouldn't change a thing about them, except some of their old timey ways. And I've been told that they don't give number one out because Gary Anderson, the kicker from like the
Oh,
70s
that
and
would make a
80s,
ton of sense.
he's
Yeah.
the number one, or he's our number one point scorer ever, our leading scorer. And that happens a lot when you have a kicker for more than like 10 years. But I really don't think if they called Gary Anderson up and were like, hey, this kid Pickens is thinking about wearing number one, I highly doubt that Gary Anderson would throw some kind of stink about it. Let Pickens wear number one. It was his college number. it, I'm a very firm believer in the mantra from Deion Sanders. If you look good, you play good, they pay good. That is, I think it's true. I really do. And here's the thing: it isn't always about being flashy, Mister. Oh, here's my visor. Here are my bright colored gloves, my armbands, my shirt flaring out the bottom. If that's your style, yeah, go for it. But the whole you look good, you feel good, you play good thing, that can be broken down into if you're a guy who just tapes his fingers, if you're a guy who goes no gloves, if you're a guy who like you don't do anything to your style, but that's how you feel good and you want to play like that, you play good. You know, Pickens is of the more flashy style and similar but different. But I was talking to a buddy and I said, dude, I firmly believe if Jamar Chase wasn't given number one as a rookie, he is not the sensation he was last year. He's probably still really, really, really freaking good. But that number one just hits different, dude. That when you're wearing a number you like and you feel like yourself, you can be your best self. And I think they're only going to be handicapping Pickens if they don't let him wear number one. He can wear whatever. There's other numbers available, but that would be so sick if they gave him number one.
Yeah, and it pulls in like the vibes. You're right. It's like this vicarious thing that the fans live through, and the players feel it. They certainly feel it when it's down or when it's silent in the stadium versus Renegade, firing up and the crowd and the towels going wild. Like you feed off of that energy. It is energy, positive and negative energy, even with the numbers. In fact, hold on, I forgot to pull this one up. There is Pickett with the 8. And it was funny because I was thinking they did this photo shoot and they already had his number and they were already selling it in the stores. And then he did that press conference with the NFL draft one with the number one as the number one first round pick. So I don't know why they did that, but anyways, back to George Pickens. And yeah, where's my dude at? We'll have to find him here in a second, but I don't know. I'm thinking along the lines of Mike Tomlin usually doesn't like to play wide receivers right out the gate. I've noticed that quite frequently over the years. We've seen it happen. Martavius Bryant probably didn't play until he got dinged too, so he was hurt probably about 5-6
He was
weeks
out till
in.
about week 6 or 7 or 8. I remember
Yeah.
so excited to see him. He took about 6 or 7 weeks to get on the field. Juju too, slow start. I think after like a game or two, he got really going. I can't remember Deontay. He might have got thrust out early because of our just situation that year with the injuries and that was when Ben got hurt, was Deontay's rookie year. So that one's a little harder to remember. But
16
yeah,
games. He had
changes.
he was a 16 game player that
Yeah.
season. So
Okay.
you're right there. I think if we had to look, let me see where Chase Claypool's at on this list too. Yeah, I guess he was 16 games. I know he had that big week 4 where he torched the Eagles for like 4 touchdowns. But at the same time, though, not the same level of competition, I think, because when we were talking like even Deontay, this is post Antonio Brown. They needed to get somebody on the field that could play. James Washington didn't necessarily pan out the way that everyone had expected. So get Chase Claypool on the field, I think, a little earlier. I'm kind of interested to see with Pickens. Like now he's like a monster physical specimen. He's got all the talents and tools. Is he going to be ready as a rookie? We hear it all the time. They say it. And then the same thing with, we may as well throw Kelvin Austin into this
Yeah.
conversation as well, even though he's the 4th round pick, because they still have Miles Boykin. I know they got Anthony Miller. It's going to be interesting to see. I think the Steelers roster 6 wide receivers as like a way too early kind of thing. It's not unusual for them to do so. Gunnar Oshevsky is going to be the return person, so he doesn't really count. He's more of like the special teamer. Anywhere, some of these roster spots you have to remember. I know you know this and other folks, but just to reiterate, it's like Derek Watt's on the roster because he's a special teamer. Primarily, and probably a fullback second. And it was the same thing when they had Tyler Matakevich. He was a special teamer and linebacker second. And you have a few players that are like that. Benny Snell offers a special teams variety there. Zach Gentry and Kevin Rader as tight ends play and cut their teeth with special teams. I don't know that either of the wide receivers are going to do that, but we're only looking with the rookies and with Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. You're already 4 deep on that roster, but Miles Boykin was picked up off of waivers. If he makes the team, we're going to see how he works out in camp. Be interested. By the way, back at St. Vincent's College. So I think it sucks there, man, is trying to just get a hotel room. Like I tell you, it books up. It's so crazy and stupid expensive even for the Roach boat. But if you can survive it, I love it. I love it. There's nothing else like it. Like the elements there. You don't get there early enough in the stands and the shade's not on you and you're getting cooked unless you're intentionally autograph seeking or looking for a glad hand and high five or whatever. So we'll see how these guys work out when we're there and experiencing all of that stuff just as they are. And Pickett probably gets on the field. I mean, I don't think it's too hot of a take to say that Pickett gets on the field before Kenny Pickett does.
Yeah, it's probably the safer bet. Honestly, you're right that the circumstance controls the situation with the receiver room. It seems like over time and how early these guys play. Deontay and Claypool are going to be your 1 and 2, barring some kind of unforeseen superstar camp from Pickens or Austin. But behind them, it's all unproven. You know, I like Miles Boykin's tools and his intangibles as much as the next guy. Similar to you and a lot of people, I thought the Steelers were targeting him in the draft a couple years back because they displayed very clear interest in Miles Boykin. It's kind of like a Chase Claypool in a sense, a little different, but similar size, similar speed. Anthony Miller, another guy, same boat as Boykin. Good draft stock. Steelers had interest, kind of kept their eyes on him through the years. Done some good things, nothing crazy, but enough to think that when they begin the workouts for camp, it's probably going to be Deontay, Chase, a mixture of those two, and then the rookies. That's just the Steelers style to get started that way. But I think over the course of the practices and the camps and the 7-on-7s, and when you're seeing the receivers go live against the DBs on one-on-ones, Pickens and Austin both will probably stick out in a very good way. Austin's so quick and so fast, and his releases are so good. I've seen multiple videos come out since the Steelers drafted him of him at Memphis practice, at the Senior Bowl practice, just absolutely dusting dudes. Like, cannot hang with him. I'll see your George Pickens take, and I'll raise you. I think Austin might get on the field as much as Pickens, because here's the thing. I don't want to sound like we're like contradicting ourselves, but Pickens and Austin are in a situation both where they're coming into a receiver room, like I just said, where there's really only 2 guys who are established. There's NFL veterans in the room, but the only guys who I think have any room to look at them like they're just 2 rookies are Deontay and Claypool. Everybody else should be looking over their shoulder. I would love to see the new kids as soon as possible. And Pickens has that superstar ability, and Austin just fits your typical Steelers mid-round receiver pick, who we all know to be on the lookout for because we've been seeing this for like the past 10 years. And the rest of the NFL will probably take notice halfway through the season, being like, oh, here's another Steelers mid-round receiver absolutely killing us, and it's going to be Austin. So I think both get on the field as rookies, and I think both contribute in a great way. I just can't really give the people a definitive time of when that is. You know, I want to keep expectations low, but the past few drafts, last year and the year before, and even when they took Devin Bush and Deontay Johnson together in 2019. That's 3 straight drafts of the first 2 to 3 picks all playing or contributing in a very large way. So expectations keeping them low, but history is suggesting over the past few drafts that these guys are going to get on the field pretty early.
Yeah, well, even with Devin Bush, there was still the veteran presence of Mark Barron.
Yeah.
So they just don't tend to throw the rookies out on the field without having like some type of veteran usually paired competing with them. That's where they earn their spot. That's where I think the same way with Kenny Pickett. That's where I'm thinking maybe the wide receivers. It's not that they won't get on the field. It's exactly what you said. It's when.
Yeah, all these guys have to prove it. They all have to prove it. That sounds like a cop-out coming from you or I, because the point of the show is to set the expectations, but that's as bluntly as I can put it. They have to prove it. If they get to camp and they're lighting up the field, get them on the field, 100%. And I think they both have a situation in front of them that if they want, it's there for the taking. It's up to them, the 2 rookies.
Yeah, absolutely. And long term, I'm thinking, Pickens is going to be there maybe even longer than Chase Claypool. This is if you don't do a deal with either of the existing wide receivers. You let Deontay and or Chase Claypool go. Both of these guys, my expectation is that they're the replacements for each, with Kelvin Austin replacing Johnson, and then Pickens being a Claypool either replacement or upgrade.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm with you. I think this draft signaled that. Even though Frisman Jackson, the receiver coach, he said they weren't trying to get Austin, but he was the best player on the board, so they took him. I think this is the writing on the wall. I think they'll try to keep at least one of Deontay and Claypool, but one of them, before we know it, is going to be out of here. And then your top 3 is going to be Pickens, Austin, and then whoever stays of Deontay and Claypool. I'm with you 100%. I think they keep one of them, but not both.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to round 3. Oh, by the way, I want to go back to Gary Anderson because I need to get him to sign the kicker ball. I got to find him. I got to track him down. I don't think kickers make a whole lot of autograph appearances, but yeah, he pretty much was the Steeler of the 80s. It's your younger guy. I don't think they give up one. Like, that's the reason that one. I know it sounds silly that it's an unofficially retired number for a kicker. But yeah, not only all of the franchise records that he held for various many years, he had 13 seasons where he played with the Steelers. He ends up playing, another 10 throughout the NFL between Minnesota, Philadelphia Eagles, Tennessee Titans, and the 49ers. He finished playing at age 45. So,
okay.
I still had him up on the screen. He made 2 Pro Bowls in the 80s, 83 and 85, and then once more. When he was in his 30s, he made it in 93 with the 93 Steelers team. And again, in 98 with the Vikings, he was pushing 40 years old. So it's a guy that has Hall of Fame credentials.
He's the one who missed. He's the one who missed for the Vikings in 98. Was that him?
Yeah.
Took Randy Moss's Super Bowl ring. See, he owes the receiver community a payback for that. He took Randy Moss's ring. So he should give Pickens number 1.
Jeez, oh man, you come about this stuff. It's like this guy with between Tyrann Mathieu and Aaron Rodgers. You come up with the formulas. You should tell everyone how you take like the jersey number of the guy that you like. So if it was like 26, you're like, okay, I'm spending, I don't know, like I'm pumping gas and I make sure it ends on 2.6 in the cents range in order to provide more positive vibes out there in the universe.
Voluntarily gave myself OCD. Yeah, over time. It started out as just a good vibes and superstitious kind of thing. Now everything I do has to be in increments of Steelers jersey numbers or guys that I want to be on the Steelers. That's 100% true. I wish it wasn't, but it is.
We need a campaign to get Gary Anderson in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. There's just not enough love for kickers and punters. Although, like, it's hard to argue that Ray Guy is like the punter. You know what I mean? But some of these kickers, I mean, like Vinatieri, I think it's a whole other topic. But someday, like you're looking at it right now, Justin Tucker and Chris Boswell, if they keep this rolling and they're playing into their 40s like these other guys, like they both have to be in that conversation. It's like Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu. You know what I mean? So it's
Dude,
the same thing.
I just heard Tucker's contemplating holding out too. You believe that? A kicker holdout. I just heard that the other day. He wants a new deal or more money from the Ravens. So that'd be sick if they like lost him or like created some kind of rift with Tucker. That'd be awesome because I'm sick of him being in the division.
Yeah, maybe he could go somewhere where he could actually win a Super Bowl. So going forward anyway. So yeah, I know. I kid. Yeah, going forward, let's see. D. Marvin Leal, 3rd round pick. Reasonable expectations for the big man. I think number one, we got to find out what position he's playing. We've mentioned, does his weight go up? Does his weight go down? Does that put him out on the edge, standing up in a 3-4? Or does that put his hand in the dirt in the 3-4, playing basically defensive end? The Steelers need like something to say. I guess you would say they're defensive ends, but now with all of the draft talk, it always screws me up because it's like edge rusher. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, so you got like defensive ends and then you have edge rushers. And unfortunately, we don't know which position that the Steelers are targeting DeMarvin for. I mean, they have like a little bit of depth on their roster at this position. I know it's not like the Taco Charlton, but they still retained John Simon. And who am I just thinking of? I lost. Yeah, obviously it's TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith as starters. Who's my other guy? Derek
Avery.
And Jannard Avery, yes. Tuska was the one I was thinking of as well.
Oh, yeah.
So you got a couple bodies there at least. Hey, I know it's not exciting if someone gets hurt, but newsflash. I just did it on SteelCityUnderground.com. We were looking back. We always do like the recall articles. And the Raiders was up this week from week 2. And TJ played about 16 snaps, and you had to have Jameer Jones play 15 after TJ got hurt. Yeah, everybody forgot Camp Phenom, Jameer Jones, and then cut like a week or 2 later. So that kind of thing happens. I'm not going to suggest that Leal gets cut, but I am going to suggest that Leal probably doesn't have much more of a role other than special teams unless there's injuries this year, and particularly if Stephon Tuitt is back.
Yeah. This is the part of the program where Zach Flash comes back down to earth because whereas I would love to see DeMarvin Leal on the field early and often, I think you hit the nail on the head there, bud. We don't know what spot he's playing yet, so he's the hardest expectation to place among the class, I think. Would love to see him early, but I think it needs to be figured out where he's going to play, and like you said, if they're going to add weight or try to cut weight on him. I think he could be a good edge rusher. I think he could be a good defensive lineman for us. So that's too everything is too up in the air, hypothetical with Leal right now. I still love the pick. I said this last time we were on. He's a good player and got a lot of talent. I just don't know if he's going to be ready as a rookie to crack the lineup. And because Alex Highsmith is a good ball player. People forget that because he plays next to TJ Watt. But if he's going to be an edge rusher, Highsmith is still your starter and still a guy that can get you close to 10 sacks. I believe that if he's reaching his peak, he can get close to 10 sacks. And then on the line, you got Cam Hayward, obviously, Tyson Alualu, Chris Wormley. So maybe that Chris Wormley spot would be easier for him to break into. But again, that's all dependent upon if the Steelers want to put him on the line or make him an edge rusher. So love the pick, but I'm with you. I don't think he contributes much as a rookie, unfortunately. If he surprises me, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards him playing like that defensive end / defensive tackle 3 or 5 technique, like Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt. I don't think they put him in the middle of the defense like a Tyson Alualu replacement, but they have Chris Wormley for that, provided they don't have to swing people all the way around to fit into all of these different spots. And by the way, yeah, Alex Highsmith I've been very high on. I bought his jersey last year, walked in with the whole Highsmith clan actually in through Gate B. So that was pretty cool because I was like, hey, Highsmith clan or whatever, because I was doing an imitation of you tailgating.
Yeah, right.
It was cool though. It was cool. They had like maybe about 8 to 10 of the family walking in, and it was like, how cool is this? Because it's family, and when you're over on that one side of the behind the Steelers bench, usually that's where they're giving out. You see a lot of what would you say? I don't want to say odd jerseys, but jerseys you just don't buy right off the rack.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I bumped into Kevin Rader's mom more than once. So
Super
people
cool,
like that.
though. That's really cool though to see the parents just beating with pride. I remember I was waiting to get into a game one time, and right next to me, one of the gates, there's like a VIP gate right next to the regular gates, And dude walks up. He's probably like 7 feet tall, and he's wearing a Jesse James jersey. So I said, "Oh, that's Jesse James's dad, 100,000%." And then after him, there was like 2 more people with the jersey on going. And I was like, "Yep, there's Jesse James's family." And the Highsmiths are great people. Sam's an awesome dude. That's Alex's dad. I see him on Twitter. Very active guy. They're
Very cool
an
guy.
awesome family. Great people. It makes total sense why the Steelers fell in love with the Highsmiths during the pre-draft process.
Yeah, 6 sacks last year. All of those transpired after Melvin Ingram found the bench. That Seattle game, that was week 6. So in 12 games, 6 sacks. Let's see, 37 solo tackles, another 23 assisted for a combo of 60. 14 of those were for a loss, which is, you're talking about 25% of his tackles are for loss, 15 quarterback hits, and forced fumble. And you're going to get even more of that when he's not in a timeshare. That's the reason why I think like DeMarvin probably is more of a fit because they don't know what's going on with Tuitt. 35 years old with Tyson Alualu, you can't really rely on, does Chris Wormley just jump into a starter and now you don't have depth there? You may have Loudermilk there. You still got my king, Montravius Adams. I loved that pickup last year for sure. So I always got to point that out because people are always talking about lack of edge depth or edge rushers or whatever. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with Highsmith. And by the way, not only a Presley Harvin jersey at home had to be like a girlfriend or somebody like that, Harvin 3, but there was a dude wearing one in Green Bay.
Presley Harvin jersey.
Presley, what did I say? I said the other dude that played for the Vikings or the Seahawks or whatever. Yeah, Presley Harvin, the big punter.
Yeah, number punter. 6. Yeah, if you're seeing number
Percy,
6,
didn't I?
That's totally his family. If you saw a Harvin jersey, that's his family, 100%.
I feel so bad. It's going to be one of those things where I'm like saying Michael Thomas for the longest time with Matthew Thomas, just because Michael Thomas was at Ohio State and he was on my fantasy teams too, because it's like, why wouldn't you? He screwed me though the previous year because he got hurt and didn't play. So I tend to forget that guy's around. Now they put another Buckeye with him with Chris Olave. That should be pretty interesting. But that's what we got for Leal. Maybe potentially down the road, somebody that's going to jump in and start in place of Tuitt or Hayward. Hayward's not getting any younger, but that's my expectation. You're going to forget he was drafted around this time next year. That's the way I'm thinking of it. We already talked about Kelvin Austin in the 4th round. Now you got the day 3 guys. And I'm seeing folks already doing their, quote, film study on Connor Hayward. And it's like, look at him throw this block. Look at him do this. Look, my guy, if he's makes the 6th, especially, we're talking pick 208. This isn't like the territory where players are always making the 53-man roster. Even if it is 6th round, 7th round, even much more of a struggle. This might be somebody that's like a catch-release candidate. I've mentioned it on a previous show somewhere, like Colin Holba and Travis Feeney, some other 6th rounders, and even 7th rounders. You had 1 year with Marcus Ayers, who surprised and then was gone. Like you just, you blink your eye and you talk about that receiver room and boom, he's gone. So they're fortunately expendable. They're always battling for that position, their spot on the roster in that bottom half. So Hayward, probably at most special teams guy. We've mentioned an H-back type. We've mentioned David Johnson, Will Johnson in that vein. Yes, they still have Derek Watt. We'll see, though. Could surprise. We don't know Matt Canada's offense. A lot of people go yuck, yuck, joke on that. But maybe you get a little bit different of a feel here when you don't have almost 40-year-old Ben Roethlisberger who's, joints aren't as lubricated as, these younger guys are, like a Mitchell Trubisky or even Mason. We saw Mason bootleg and scoot a little bit. We saw a couple of different things there in that Lions game. Let's not kid ourselves. And, of course, Kenny Pickett as well. So we'll see what happens with Hayward. Might as well just knock them all out here, and then we'll get into UDFA. So Mark Robertson, linebacker, I don't have a high expectation of making the roster at this point. 1 year playing at the position at Ole Miss. So he's got to cut his teeth. Likely has the physical traits, showed some things on film for the Steelers to throw a dart at him. And then Chris Oladokun, I'm also looking at as practice squad, scout team kind of operations guy. You still have Lamar Jackson in the division. You've now added Deshaun Watson to the division. It's somebody that if you're going to keep around for at least to operate some practices. And Joe Burrow moves around too. So gives you a little bit of a different flavor, perhaps. And Are you going to have Kenny Pickett running practice squad? Because what happens if Kenny Pickett does win the job? You're going to have Trubisky or Rudolph. Are they going to be able to simulate the same type of scenarios in practice? So that's where I see Oladokin. I think some people just instantly meant that, Mason Rudolph is trade bait and going to be cut from the roster. So those are my thoughts on Hayward, Robinson, and Oladokin. See if you're in, I don't know, are you in agreement with me?
Yeah. No, I am. Yeah, you pretty much nailed all that. I mean, I'll give my little 2 cents here for the people that care. But
the 2%ers.
The 2%ers. Yeah, that's perfect. It's meant for them. Connor Hayward, I'm still fine with the pick. I still like the pick. Again, we're talking 6th round here, and at that point, I don't care. I do care because I want the Steelers to pick good players, and you're always hoping they find the next Tom Brady or Antonio Brown. But we already touched on that and made fun of people that cling to that as their reason for going out of your way to draft someone that you feel is going to be really good in the 6th or 7th round. You don't just find Antonio Brown or Tom Brady in the 6th round. They are outliers. They're 2 of the best football players of all time, specifically Tom Brady, who is the best football player of all time. So the 6th round and 7th round, I know that stings, but the truth hurts, baby.
I just vomited in my mouth and then swallowed it after having coffee. You can imagine what that's like. It's one day, maybe like Michael Jordan, I could admit it, but as they're active and in your team's playing against them, ain't gonna happen, buddy. I can't do it.
I know we got him this year too, bro. Unless something crazy happens, we got him this year because we're playing the Buccaneers, so we'll be seeing him. And it's easier for me to give Brady props because I wasn't as crazy as I am now. Like when he beat us in the championship game, Ben's rookie year, I watched maybe one game that year. I was only in 4th grade, so I didn't have that sting of that. And he beat us a couple years before too. So there were 2 giant losses to Tom Brady that got in the way of the Steelers getting to the Super Bowl before I was a diehard fan. So it's easier for me to talk about Brady in a nice way. Even though it does make a lot of people want to throw up in this town. So I get that. But my point is that I don't get bent out of shape over any which way when the Steelers go either off the map or very much on the map with the Connor Hayward pick, who everybody saw coming in the later rounds. Yeah, I got upset when they picked the long snappers. I thought that was a dumb pick. But if you're picking a regular football player, who can do special teams and has some accolades, I have nothing wrong with the selection. Connor Hayward has got some good football on tape. I know that's hard for some people to believe, but he was a pretty big focal point for Michigan State and their success. Great character guy, high character guy. I think he's at the very least going to be retained on practice squad. He has a chance to make the team, but it's a small chance. We're gonna go with practice squad. Stick with Vegas and the smart money on that. Mark Robinson, I'm with you there. Another perfect practice squad candidate. I think they can get away with cutting him in final cuts and not have anybody try and pick him up. Like you said, a 1-year starter at the position. I think Hayward gets picked up more likely than Robinson if they cut them both, because Hayward at least has the big name and people know who he is. And then Oladukin, eventually I will get that right. But he is your perfect candidate for the practice squad quarterback, like you were alluding to. That's so right. Sometimes the answer is right in front of our face, and us as fans and analysts, we overthink it. And he's perfect for a quarterback to practice against in today's modern NFL, which everybody at home knows how I feel. Most of the quarterbacks in the NFL now are mobile athletes. Doesn't mean they're all Lamar Jackson or Michael Vick, but like you said, Joe Burrow, very athletic. Justin Herbert, great athlete. Even the Zach Wilsons of the world are great athletes at the quarterback position. So having a guy that can run the offense for your practice squad, like Oladukin, and simulate the RPOs and throwing on the run and avoiding pressure, that's great. I think that is his role as a rookie. I don't expect him to, make a huge dent with the depth chart, or, people that want to say trade Mason now that we got Oladukin. That's way too premature. And I am not a Mason fan. That's what's important for people to remember. That's your side of the podcast. My side is against Mason. And it's good to have a back and forth and variety. You don't want everything we say to just be in unison. If that were the case, we might as well start singing it and break out into chorus.
You won't catch me doing that. Maybe Brian. He'll bust your eardrums.
I would love to have Brian on. We could do a duet. That'd be great. And I don't listen.
That
People
Tom
know this
Brady
about.
thing just happened again in my mouth.
I was in chamber choir in middle school. Okay, I was a really good singer when I was a little kid. I lost it when I got to high school, but in middle school, I could belt it out. I could hit the highest of the notes, my friend. So if Brian wants to get on and sing with me, I'm waiting. As you know, I love having Brian on. It was one of my favorite things the other night when I got to finally see him face to face.
Yeah, you know what? That would be kind of funny. I don't remember what Brian was doing. He was in the comments talking with somebody else that was from his hometown, original hometown of Dayton, Ohio, and I guess they were both singers. So,
Oh,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I do peruse the comments every now and then and catch these odd tidbits or these fun tidbits from some of our fans all over the planet. So,
are people complaining about me? That's been a common theme lately. Not that I care or look or anything. I didn't even, whatever.
they complained about me too. I didn't look to see if they
Just kidding.
complained on the last show or not, but it's like, yeah, variety is the spice of life. You know what I mean? We're trying to have the circus here, so I guess you're the high flyer, and I'm maybe like the lion tamer, and then Brian would be the clowns or whatever. Or maybe I'm more the ringmaster. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe.
there you go. I'm on the tightrope. I can be up on the tightrope.
Yeah, that would work out pretty well. Well, we've got some, let's see. We've got the undrafted free agents, and this has already become the hot topic as we've been talking in the back rooms because we said, hey, everybody's starting to bring up some of these dudes. So we'll go through this list and take a look at who we have.
We were on Durant first. We
Yes,
were on Mateo Durant first on this
yes.
show. I swear, as soon as you got me on your side with that because he didn't stick out to me. I said this on the last show, but when I see the undrafted free agent list, I just look at the schools. So when I saw that he was a Duke running back, I was like, oh, big deal, Duke. I'm sure he's really good. And you got me on your side right away. Giving your little synopsis about his college career and his over 5 yards a carry average. And you got me on your side real quick with that. And when I went to look at him and actually do a little deep dive, aka YouTube his highlights, I was all on board. Looks like a good running back. And it was like clockwork. Every other show I heard after ours was like, hey, this Durant guy from Duke, he might be your guy. He might be RB2. So lo and
Yeah.
behold, we know what we're talking about over here.
First doesn't always mean right in most cases, but this one it was like, hey, that's kind of cool that we were first to it. You know what I mean? And we're calling him Kevin Durant instead of Mateo
That's
Durant.
all I remember.
We'll put that back up in a second. I didn't have it in this was just alphabetical order, but of the players, almost kind of like a lightning round. You got a couple of tackles. The Duquesne guy, real long shot maybe to make it on the roster. Offensive tackle Jake Dixon. Durant is second on the list, running back from Duke. And yes, we very much feel that Durant has a spot maybe even a shot to make the roster, definitely practice squad because the Steelers, they didn't sign anybody. They didn't bring anyone back like Kalen Ballage. They didn't go after their usual veteran signings like a Stephen Ridley or Niall Davis. You remember that one by any chance?
Oh, dude, I
Robots.
do. I was so psyched over Niall Davis.
Or people were calling him Niles Davis. Like they had the name like all butchered. So I do think that Durant with McFarland, depending on if McFarland could stay healthy, because that's been part of his problem too. Durant's a smaller back, but he offers some different things like McFarland did. He could end up stealing that spot right from underneath him, but it does more than likely signal that Benny Snell is going to remain the primary backup. Unless another veteran comes along the way. I mean, they picked up Wendell Smallwood last year, but he was almost exclusively practice squad. I think he may have been called up once to the active roster during that spell. Defensive lineman Donovan Jeter from Michigan. I'll put him in the same spot, although a Big Ten guy, maybe has a little bit better of a chance. Tyree Johnson, outside linebacker. Let's see how that occurs because Ola Adney, Tuzar Skipper, those type of guys had some pretty good preseasons, and they end up showing up, and that would be the same with Auburn's TD Moultrie.
Jameer Jones, who you mentioned earlier
Jameer
in the show,
Jones.
Jameer Jones. The Steelers have made a habit of giving the outside backer / edge rusher of the free agent crop an honest look.
Yeah. Offensive guard Chris Owens from Alabama. That's a Bama guy right there. He's played every position. He's very flexible with positioning, and the Steelers have a habit of finding undrafted linemen and making it work. So I'm feeling pretty good about his odds of fitting in somewhere, even if his first year is kind of a redshirt year, so to speak, and he doesn't make the 53. Yeah.
That was my pick before you got forward to the Durant talk. I thought Owens was the guy who jumped out the most as the guy who has a chance to make the team. First of all, like you said, because Steelers, similar to the outside backer position, they've gone undrafted free agent a bunch and gotten guys to stick. And the pedigree jumps out, of course, best college program in the nation most of the time. And it can play all around the line, which the Steelers also love in their linemen because you can plug and play whoever needs a backup, put Owens in. So yeah, Owens and Durant, headliners, I think, of this crop here.
Yeah. Corner, Chris Steele from USC. Steelers have done some undrafted deals before in the past. James Pierre. We'll have to see how that might work out. Mike Hilton, obviously.
Yeah.
Jordan Tucker, North Carolina, another offensive tackle. Hey, they don't have a whole lot of tackle depth. That could end up working out. Jalen Warren, running back, Oklahoma State. Maybe another guy that just makes the practice squad. It depends on the eligibility.
Likes him. The professor likes him a lot.
Yeah,
Warren.
yeah. A little bit bigger of a guy too than Durant, so maybe a little more durable. Offer you something else. Remember, what was his name now? Oh, the guy that would always get the third down yardage. You'd always get that yard when you needed it. He was another undrafted guy.
Watson.
Was that his name? I'm trying to think now. Wasn't he the Nightmare? He was calling him like Christian Okoye, but he was calling him. Mike Tomlin was calling him the Nightmare, like Christian Okoye. I'm trying to remember.
Dude, who was that?
I'm gonna have to look him up, but that's kind of like the vibe I was getting. I am gonna look it up. And then the corner from UMass, Bryce Watts, another player, and he transferred. I think that was his third school when he ended up at UMass. So obviously he has tape from some other spots. Maybe someone that ends up sticking, we'll end up seeing. But again, when you're working on this list, what was it, like 10 players, undrafted players, you're filling out the rest of the 90, and they're already kind of starting at the bottom. It's tough to say that, but it is the business of football and putting all of this together. So, Zach, you're going to have to find out. Man, it's on the tip of my tongue, too. Steelers. We're going to find out. No, not Najee Harris. Come on. That's definitely not who I was looking for.
Was he number 39 too? That's jumping out in my head. They gave him 39, I think. So it was pre-Minka.
Yes. It was oh man. It's gonna drive me absolutely bonkers if I don't find this. The 2%ers, you're gonna have to wait until I do.
While you're looking, I can say this. I saw a recent article that was I think it was Bleacher Report or Barstool. It was one of those. Sorry, I don't have the right credibility. I'm not dishing out the proper props for that, but someone wrote an article just trying to fill time, picking every team, one undrafted free agent from every team to make the team, who's most realistic. And this guy picked Tucker for us, the tackle from North Carolina, but I think he just looked at the tackle position, how we don't really have any firm backups in place, and just kind of threw a dart there. Tucker could be a fine player, but that's who the mainstream media thought would have a shot at sticking on our team, was the tackle from Carolina. But we'll hold firm here and stick with Mateo Durant and Owens from Bama.
You got a pretty good memory there. I was thinking Terrell, however which way, and it was Watson. Was Watson, dude, and he did wear 39. How about
for something?
Yes, not just a hat rack. But yeah, that's what he was calling him, man. Played his college football at Azusa Pacific. So
yeah.
And he was actually with the Bengals. He did the tour. He was with the Bengals, the Browns, the Broncos, the Eagles, then the Steelers, where he hung around kind of 2 seasons, and then when he got cut, he ended up with the Giants, Chargers, and then the San Diego Fleet in 2019, and that was an American Alliance of American Football team.
Yeah.
That's where I was trying to remember it, and man, I'll tell you what. I think he was calling him the Nightmare, wasn't he? I think so.
He was because he was like a power back. That was the thing.
Oh yes, that's what it was. So, but yeah, that guy, improbable. There's a lot of cool stories about him if you end up checking him out. He had a very improbable story to get where he got, and he was a little bit of a camp phenom. And 2 seasons in the NFL, one with Philly and then the one with the Steelers. He had 5 carries for 8 yards, but he had 3 first downs. He was practically unstoppable. And I'll never forget, there was one in particular play where they handed off to him. I'm like, there's no way he's getting this. You know what I mean? It's so obvious it's a run. He's in the backfield and he still got it. I mean, he got it by like inches, but he still got it. It's how cool to remember something like that. So if you're out there, Tyree Watson,
it's a high success rate.
Trails, man. High five.
High success rate.
So, well, we got all of them. So I guess right now, if we had to pull a name out of the hat between all of the players we've mentioned today, the rookies, incoming class, who's your guy, your top guy? Who's the guy that's making the most impact in 2022?
Oh, that's so tough, man. Okay, my brain just says Pickett. That's the easy answer. He's the quarterback, the first round pick. He'll probably make the biggest impact, assuming the Steelers made the right draft choice. If he doesn't make the biggest impact, we may have problems. Hopefully not. But my heart says one of the receivers, and my Steeler knowledge that I think I have sometimes suggests Kelvin Austin will have the biggest impact as a rookie.
Man, I'll tell you what, that's a tough one for me to pick too, because we've already talked about DeMarvin probably not playing a whole lot. Does Hayward get like 5 snaps a game or whatever on the actual offense? Maybe he does something cool on special teams, full tackle, forced fumble.
Yeah.
If it's Ben, and Ben was the kingmaker with these wide receivers, I would have to go Pickens. I think I still go Pickens because for whatever reason in my brain right now, in my heart, emotionally, I'm thinking to myself, this is the guy that's going to go up and win the ball no matter which one of these inexperienced between Mason Rudolph or Kenny Pickett, or bad experienced with Mitchell Trubisky and his time with the Bears. And that's the reason Anthony Miller might sneak on the field too, just if, maybe there's some familiarity and that helps bring them along. Just some really cool stuff too. I'm trying to remember who was saying it in an interview. Man, it's going to really drive me crazy because I heard it on the NFL radio, but it was somebody during their time with the Steelers. It might have been Bruce Gradkowski actually. And he was talking about how Mike Tomlin would actually have him work in with maybe like some of the, instead of just backups, he would work in with the third stringers, the fourth stringers, because you just never know who you're going to be on the field with. You never know what's going to click. Something that they worked on. So you just never know. You never know. But I'm going to say Pickens just because for my argument's sake, I'm not a fan of seeing Pickett on the field right away. And I didn't really touch on this, but first year struggles with NFL quarterbacks, constant, even Trevor Lawrence last year. So I don't know. Maybe Kenny Pickett's out there, but maybe he's not making the huge the huge impact, having those big performances. Like we're thinking like 30 touchdowns or something crazy right out the gate. It's gonna be, you gotta bring that down. It's gonna be like 18 touchdowns if he's even a 17-game starter, maybe, and maybe with like 13 picks. You just never know. Like that's I
like 21 and 12. That's jumping out in my head right now. 21 and 12 touchdown INT ratio.
That sounds a lot like Mitch Trubisky. And just to take a look at it real quick, let's see.
Pickens is a good choice, though. You're not wrong. Pickens was my heart is in so much of this. I wanted to say Pickens too, but I'm letting my big brain, air quotes, about the Steelers get in the way, and I think Austin is just like a sneaky pick. But I'm with you on Pickens. I'm over the moon excited to see what he has to offer. And you're right, he gives you everything that Claypool's been failing at, that go up and get it mentality.
Yeah, that's the way that's exactly where I'm thinking of it. And maybe he saves a quarterback's life or career in doing so. Just to go back to the Mitch Trubisky, that's about where he was, sub 60%. Maybe 2,200 yards. 7-7, 12 games. That following year, though, that 24-12, that was good for that Pro Bowl. That was there. Yeah. The only problem is some folks also have to realize when you're looking at some of the games, you've got some really good stuff in here. You've got stuff like 171 yards passing with nothing.
Yeah.
Then you got a game against Tampa where he went for 354, 6 touchdowns and no interceptions.
Yeah, that was his best career game. Yeah, I know that.
And he follows it up with 52% completion percentage. They had him throw 50 times against New England. in 38-31 loss. 333 yards, but imagine garbage time if I look back on that correctly. But it's kind of all over the place. You got 20 for 12 against Buffalo, 135 yards, touchdown, interception. So it's like you're going to have these ups and downs. Inactive, comes back, the Rams, 16 of 30, 110 yards, touchdown, and 3 picks. Following week, completing like 72% of his passes, 235 yards, and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Sacks are all over the place. You just interceptions all over the place. So yeah, very much hot cold, and that could be very much the same thing with Kenny Pickett too. But they're looking, Steelers are set up in a good spot, so don't get too mad if it's like, hey, Kenny Pickett isn't out there. Even if he looks the part, man, he can go out there and blaze it up in the preseason. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck on Jameer Jones, James Pierre, and a lot of your camp phenom type names. They don't necessarily even see them in camp. They see everybody talk everything up in camp. And there's so many people out there on Twitter, they got their phones and then they get like one little like clip that they put up and it's like, wow, look, somebody so-and-so, they made this catch, they made this pass, they made this thing. And all of a sudden you're living and dying by one play. And you can't do that in either direction. And you hear that in the draft. That happens in the draft too. Oh, look, so-and-so did this in this one play. And that's why, and I think somebody just said that about Kenny Pickett. Look what he did in this one game against so-and-so with whatever. And it's like, come on, it's one game. If we were doing that, Ben Roethlisberger would have never had the career that he ended up having to that point. So,
yeah, that's where I break off from the people that just want to start Pickett to start Pickett. My opinion is based in substance. There's substance in my sauce. I'm not just saying start Pickett because he's the first round guy. I would want Pickett to start and I think this is going to happen. I think all 3 guys are going to get their shot to roll with the ones in preseason. I think the first preseason game, it'll probably be Mitch or Mason. The next week, it'll be the opposite of those 2. Week 3, they'll probably let Pickett start with the first team, or like they'll switch it up. But they're all going to get their chance with the first team offense and against starters on defense. And if Pickett is consistently better than the other 2, he will start, in my opinion. But if it's just a throw or 2, like you're saying, on a highlight clip, that's different. That's where I am not with the people saying start Pickett, start Pickett, start Pickett. I'm 4-team start Pickett, but it has to be a consistent showing throughout camp and a consistent difference in the tempo of the offense when he's in there as opposed to the vets.
Yep. And coming up on the next program, we've got a schedule release, as we said, later in the week. Home opponents. We'll see what ends up happening here.
Win. That's what I see.
When we actually go through, that's funny that you said that, because that's exactly what we end up doing, myself and Brian, and we're just like win, all win columns. We'll see. The Raiders, they're bums still, right? You're going to be able to beat up on them. The Jets, they're bums. The Saints are bums. Maybe Brady breaks a hip or something. We'll see what ends up happening. Those home games. The away games are kind of interesting too. Actually, I'm going to try and see. I get them both up on screen. So, I mean, aside from your AFC North opponents, I'd like to go to every single one of these games on the road. I mean, it's some nice short trips here, actually, which is better. Like I said, benefits the Steelers, but Atlanta, Buffalo, provided depends on when Buffalo is.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah, dude. I'm not going there in December.
Yeah, not a chance in hell that I'll be there either.
And we live in Pittsburgh, which like is bad here, but like I'm not going to Buffalo.
And then Indianapolis in the Dome would be nice, but I'm looking at that trip to Miami. Philadelphia, always miserable. The Steelers always tend to drop games in Philadelphia. I haven't won there since like forever. So we'll break all of that down for all of you coming up in the blah, blah, blah. Next episode, hopefully, maybe I have Brian on, maybe I have you back on. We'll see what ends up happening. Maybe we even have another live show heading into the weekend. Whoop, whoop. Might be doing something like that. So keep your eyes and ears peeled. Zach, thanks once again, buddy, for joining me again today. Love the term. I love doing terms of endearment. Buddy, honey, chief, pal, muffin.
Buddy, pal, friend. Don't call me friend, guy.
Whatever you say there. Maybe you say they're chief, sport.
Yeah. City slicker.
Boss. And to all the bosses that are out there watching and listening. I can be the boss. I don't try to boss you around though. Most people I don't have the bully stick out. I need to get one though. I have the Festivus pole. That's about as close as it gets. So Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. All of you 2%ers are already doing that. Hopefully everyone else is stuck around. Maybe we have 4%ers out there today that are listening and watching. My name's Joe. His name is Zach, as we close out the show all the time. Like I said, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. Check out the ratings wherever you're listening. That always helps us, and it helps us get more of this great content out to you. And hopefully you think it's great content and you don't think myself or Zach sucks. And now that we said it, we're just inviting the comments. You know that? It's coming along.
Yeah, keep them coming. I love it. I got tough skin.
Yep, I try to. But being a referee for close to 25 years, you have to. You just can't bite at everything, or else you're throwing everybody out of the game, which is fun too.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard it all, brother.
Absolutely. Oh, for another day. Until next time, my name's Joe. His name's Zach, as we always tend to do here. We encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.